Hello, my name is Arnav Kolluru. I go to Liberty High School in Renton, Washington, and I'm going to be addressing the impacts of herbicide overuse using sustainable AI-powered weed detection. So about me, I'm a rising senior, and I just volunteer and shadow at my local hospitals as well. And here are some activities that I do that reflect my passion for public health and computational biology. So, oversight of herbicides is more than just an agricultural problem. It's a global crisis that impacts our environment, food systems, and public health. First, over 60% of global agricultural land is affected by pesticide pollution. That's a majority of our planet's farmland under chemical stress. Water contamination is also a serious concern, with more than 30% risk of herbicides leaching into groundwater, lakes, and rivers. In the US alone, 90% of well water samples contain pesticide remnants, which just affects the safety of our drinking water. These impacts aren't just environmental, though. They're also economical as well. North America suffers an annual loss of $43 billion due to weed related crop failures, making it worse by ineffective herbicide practices. Most critically, this is a public health emergency. Exposure to these chemicals is linked to chronic respiratory diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, reactive airways dysfunction syndrome, asthma, and even cancer as well. These are not rare complications, though. They affect millions globally, especially in farming communities. This is why I chose to address herbicide overuse. Tackling it doesn't just improve crop yield or protect ecosystems, it also safeguards human lives. So the problem that I identified was uniform weed management. So this involves blanket spraying of herbicides over large fields, which is what a lot of farmers are doing now. This is really devastating to our environment, but also to us as well as consumers, because this damages and chemically contaminates the healthy vegetation that goes onto our food market. This poses a severe threat to our society. This is why I proposed a solution of using more targeted intervention of herbicides by using site-specific weed management. This can be seen and used by extracting the NASA satellite data that I'll talk about later on and computing the normalized difference vegetation indices with it. So by I then started with extracting NASA data, and I wrote over 1,300 lines of Python code to extract over 4,600 images of NASA data from NASA's Landsat database. So I then fed these images into my machine learning algorithm that I was training, known as k-means clustering. I wanted the k-means cluster to be able to identify whether the crop was a weed or not. So I used that as the data set that I extracted as a training set, but also as a testing set as well. So just something to note from the data set that I extracted, it essentially is can be shown here in the terminal output. This is kind of like a overview. So this just the main takeaway from this though is it shows that weed infestation is becoming a bigger problem as there was a growth in weed infestation from 2023 to 2024 from the NASA data I extracted. The high level design flowchart on to the right is a more detailed process of that I created on how I extracted the NASA data. So just to continue, I use Matplotlib to generate these graphics, the heat map on the left and the monthly comparison bar chart on the right. The meat map essentially shows how the factors like the total patches and patch size are strongly correlated with weed affected areas. So, and the monthly bar comparison bar chart on the right just further exemplifies why we need more targeted intervention because it shows the varying weed infestation rates over months and years. So now this moves on, lets me move on to ground level detection, which is the second phase of my project. So ground level detection involved me building a rover, which I built using a starter kit. But also I just want to tell you the two main important parts of my rover that are pertinent right now. The Raspberry Pi and that accompanying Pi camera. So the Pi camera is essentially the camera of the rover. It's the live camera. It captures everything around it. But it's really important because whatever the rover is scanning, that is then sent over and prompts the Raspberry Pi, which is essentially the brains of the rover, to make a decision on whether the crop is a weed or not. Well, the Raspberry Pi is able to do this because of the machine learning algorithm k-means cluster that I trained earlier. So I essentially what I did was I fed the k-means clustering into the Raspberry Pi of the rover, and that allows the Raspberry Pi of the rover to make confidence level predictions and prediction scores that I'll be talking about later on. So I then developed a static web interface using HTML and JavaScript. So this essentially serves as a farmer's dashboard for weed monitoring. So I wanted farmers to basically get a more user-friendly experience by using my technology. So essentially, this prompts the farmer to enter a specific latitude and longitudinal values along with the dates. After the farmer does so, that it then shows the accompanying weed images on those in those specific latitude and longitudinal values. And on the weed images, they give that confidence score that the rover gave earlier. And let's say, for example, there's a confidence score of 0.92. So that means that the rover was 92% confident that that crop was a weed. This just further makes it more user friendly for the farmer to really identify and just understand like the geography of where the weed infestation is occurring on their field. So in conclusion, this project provides a sustainable alternative to indiscriminate herbicide spraying, helping combat an urgent global health and agricultural crisis. Overuse of herbicides contributes to many human diseases such as cancers, hormonal disruption, neurological disorders, and respiratory diseases. By combining NASA satellite data, AI, and Raspberry Pi rover, this system enables targeted weed control, reducing toxic chemical exposure worldwide. It also protects groundwater quality, promotes soil regeneration, and ultimately helps secure the global food supply while also limiting public health risks. This initiative supports many UN SDGs such as good health and well-being, zero hunger, and climate action. So my future plans and my call for action right now is what I'm working on is transitioning from my static web interface into a more dynamic web interface to allow for live satellite feeds, farm logins, and more weed management tools. I also want to develop a more user-friendly by making it having a mobile version of my dashboard for accessibility in low resource areas. Also, I believe my project has the potential to revolutionize how small-scale farmers manage weeds. With future collaborations and expanded testing, AI-powered weed detection can really just become an accessible global health solution for food security and sustainability. So this is just me sharing my research at science fairs. So I shared it at Genius Olympiad, which is an international science fair where I was recognized with the silver medal, and Washington State Science Fair, which I got first place for. Here are some references. And I just want to thank Global Health Leadership Conference at Johns Hopkins University for giving me the platform to present my research and why it's relevant to public health. I also want to thank all my teachers and mentors who guided me throughout this journey because it really wouldn't be possible without them. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. And here's my contact information. Thank you.